Hi, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Lark, and my book this week is called The Juneteenth Story, Celebrating the End of Slavery in the United States. Now, this book is filled with a lot of information about our brand new national holiday, which is Juneteenth. It has a long history. It officially became a holiday in 2021, and we are celebrating it this year by having June 20th off. So I want to talk to you a little bit about this holiday and its history. And this book has lots of information that I can share with you. All right, so here we go. The story of Juneteenth started hundreds of years before it was ever celebrated. On July 4th, 1776, Independence Day, America broke away from British rule and was finally able to bask in the light of freedom. But not everyone who lived there was that fortunate. For what would span over 300 years, more than 400,000 African people were taken from their homes and made to help build the country that became this free America. Though some tried to fight back, they and many of their descendants were enslaved. They could not eat what they wanted to eat. They could not play where they wanted to play. They could not live how they wanted to live. And Independence Day did not free them. It would take 89 more years until enslaved people, too, would be free. Glimmers of freedom appeared state by state in the new independent America. Vermont was the first to free or emancipate its enslaved people in 1777. Slowly, other northern states did too. Some people had long opposed slavery. These people were called abolitionists, and they were especially active in the 1830s, fighting slavery's injustice with words and sometimes force. But emancipation stopped cold at the southern states. They refused to free their enslaved people. Enslaved people's work made lots of money for large southern farms. So in these states especially, freedom for all was bad for business. Although Congressman Abraham Lincoln didn't always believe black and white people deserved equal rights, he did believe that the idea of slavery was wrong. When he was elected president in 1860, 7 southern states did the unthinkable and broke away from the United States of America. They left the nation to form a new country called the Confederate States of America, sometimes called the Confederacy, where slavery would remain legal. As the Civil War continued, President Lincoln took steps to end slavery. On January 1st, 1863, he issued an order called the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring all enslaved persons in the now 10 states of the Confederacy were forever free. The 13th Amendment to the Constitution was passed 2 years later after the Civil War ended, officially freeing all enslaved people in the United States. The Civil War had become a war about slavery. Slavery had become illegal, but in Confederate Texas, enslavers kept that news a secret. The big state of Texas was far from where most of the battles of the Civil War were being fought, so no Union soldiers were close enough to make sure that the new laws were being followed. The Civil War had ended, but enslaved Texans were not told the truth. They continued working because they didn't know they were actually free. The Confederacy surrendered to the Union on April 9, 1865, but it wasn't until June 19th that Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas. The war now over, he declared his General Order Number 3 from a balcony. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. It was 900 days after the Emancipation Proclamation, 89 years after Independence Day, and 339 years after the first enslaved Africans came to the land that is now America. The secret was finally out. Freedom now belongs to enslaved people too. Newly freed Texans began the long-delayed warmth of liberty's glow. As the news spread, they prayed, ate, and sang in celebration. June 19th became Jubilee Day. It was their Independence Day. Starting in 1866, families and communities in Texas held the first yearly Jubilee Day celebrations. The next year, the Freedmen's Bureau hosted the first Jubilee Day, held in the state capitol, and taught formerly enslaved people about the privileges that freedom offered them. At many Jubilee days, the Emancipation Proclamation was recited so that everyone could reflect on the words that had changed their lives forever. Jubilee Day became Juneteenth, short for its date of June 19th. Not all Black people saw Juneteenth as a reason to hold big, joyous events. Some felt their pain from enslavement would never be understood by younger generations who hadn't lived through it, so they hosted their own separate gatherings. Others tried to ignore Juneteenth altogether. Slavery was a terrible memory, and they preferred not to talk about it. Events of the early 1900s, like World War I and the Great Depression, Juneteenth began to lose its shine. During World War I, some people considered the celebration not American, a reminder of a sad time not worth talking about. And during the Great Depression of 1929 to 1939, people didn't have much extra time or money to use to host fairs and parties. But Juneteenth remained in the hearts of many Black Texans. In 1936, after years of little attention, sparks of Juneteenth reignited with a momentary bang. The Texas Centennial Exposition welcomed more than 46,000 Black visitors to a huge Juneteenth celebration to open its groundbreaking Hall of Black Life, an entire building dedicated to famous Black inventors, scholars, celebrities, and more. It featured huge murals illustrating the history of Black Texans. Pride burned in the hearts of everyone who participated. As time passed, especially in the South, people grew tired of laws casting shadows on their rights. Many moved north and west for better opportunities, and some also worked together to fight back as part of the civil rights movement. Juneteenth spread as Black Texans moved across America and shared their traditions in their new cities. In the 1970s, as America prepared to mark 200 years of independence, many Black people remembered the words of Frederick Douglass that said freedom was not 200 years old for all Americans. For some, Juneteenth now symbolized their Independence Day. In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Buffalo, New York, and more cities well beyond Texas, new Juneteenth traditions came to life. Families reunited, learned about their heritage, paraded, barbecued, and celebrated together. Their festivals grew larger each year. And Juneteenth became a state holiday in Texas in 1979. Though Juneteenth has long been recognized in many communities, most Americans still didn't know about it or its history. But a series of horrific events in the weeks before Juneteenth 2020 brought a spotlight to Juneteenth and how some Black people continue to be treated in America. Those events and the decades-long efforts of activists and government officials helped Juneteenth finally start to get the national attention it deserved. On June 17, 2021, over 150 years since the first Jubilee Day, it was made an official American holiday. Falling just weeks before Independence Day each year, Juneteenth is a time to remember and celebrate our enslaved ancestors' strength and perseverance, but it also reminds us to keep working towards the American dream, liberty and justice for all, a celebration of freedom for all. So boys and girls, that's why you're going to be off on June 20th as we are recognizing and celebrating our new national holiday, Juneteenth. All right, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'd love to know what you think.